Today on Conversations, Lynda Garvin, an agricultural agent at our Sandoval County Cooperative Extension Service, will speak with me about water use for gardening and landscapes. I'm your host, Matthew Bronson. Welcome to all, and welcome to you, Lynda.
Great, thank you. It's good to be here.
I hope you didn't have too hard of a commute.
Nope, just down the road.
Super. So why don't we start with the outside of the onion and we'll peel it back.
All right.
I should remember to write that down. That is a good saying. No, but agricultural agent could be at various departments or private companies.
True.
So
yes.
what is an agricultural agent?
All right. Well, the Cooperative Extension Service is an arm of the NMSU, New Mexico State University, which is a land-grant university. So you hear that term often. And that means back in the day, President Lincoln said that he wanted education to be available to everyone and not just the rich. So he started land-grant universities. And as a part of that, getting the information from the university, research, science-based information, come down to the people level where they can use it. That's where extension comes in. So we're the educators, outreach portion of the university, bringing the best technologies and information about all kinds of topics.
Right, well, wandering off that main point, as I promised I wasn't going to, a land-grant university, here in Placitas and Albuquerque area, we have lots of land grants.
Right.
Is there any connection between those land grants and what President Lincoln was doing?
Well, it might be based on the same kind of system, but what he did was for each state he gave them land, and they could either use that land to build the university, which would be open to the public, or they could sell the land and then build somewhere else. But basically they were given land, thus the land-grant university.
To the elected or the assigned territorial governor?
I don't know.
Somebody in charge.
Yeah, somebody in charge, right.
Okay, so then how does one become an agricultural agent? Is that a particular schooling or?
Right. I think most land-grant universities now require their agents to have a master's degree in some discipline. So there's 4-H agents who might have double duties. So there's family and consumer science agents, there's agriculture agents, horticulture agents, community development agents. So you need to have a core discipline in one of those fields, and then the ability to educate, so you like to teach, do workshops. I also manage the Master Gardener program, so I have over 200
for the state or Sandoval
for
County?
Sandoval County. So we have over 200 volunteers who do numerous projects all over the county for gardening.
I've met a few, spoken to a few in the last couple of years, and I'm not sure if the guys you see on Create TV that do farming shows know as much as some of these volunteer agents. It's I've often kind of thought, well, maybe I want to go through that program, and then from speaking to them, it's like, that sounds like that's going to be pretty hard.
It takes dedication and an interest in gardening. That's the only prerequisites.
Sure.
So it's 16, now it's going to be 18 weeks of training starting in January. So go through the training and you commit 40 hours of volunteer hours to certain projects throughout the county that you can work on.
Okay. Well, if we're going to stay off the track further, it's January. How does one sign up?
Well, in August, you'll find an application form on the Sandoval Master Gardeners website. So
and what is that website?
It's www.sandovalmastergardeners.org.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can go there, find the application online. You can call our office if you need help. If you don't have access to the internet, you can call us at 867-2582. We can get an application out to you. You apply. There's a little interview process. And then the classes start usually the first week in January, go in through the end of April. Professors and other...
3 months? Or 4 months? Every day?
It's once a week
Okay.
for 4 hours. Now it's on Tuesdays in the afternoon for 4 hours from 1 to 5. We have specialists from the university come up and teach classes. I teach some classes.
Well, that's less time than if you're trying to get your points taken off for a DUI. So it's a bit.
And hopefully more pleasurable.
Yes.
And educational. So, and we have some really great projects in this county that.
And is there an exit exam? God, I'm too old to take tests.
No, there's reading assignments, and now we're getting more into hands-on and like a one project that goes throughout the course, and basically it's doing a plan for your own garden. So you can get as high tech or as low tech as you want. So it's you learning things that have meaning for you.
And you had said that if I had expressed an interest, I would be a candidate.
Right.
Do I need some basic knowledge? Like you're going to put, like I'm going to go dirt, water, bark. You pass.
There you go. Well, hopefully you may come in with just that limited knowledge.
But that's
when
okay.
you come out, yes, that's absolutely. You just need to have an interest in gardening and wanting to do that kind of volunteer work. So a lot of people come here because they don't know how to grow in the desert. So it's a great way to learn about how to make things thrive and not just survive here.
No, even in the somewhat smaller than normal radio station KUPRs, because we're LPFM. We're not a 50,000 watt flamethrower as they call them. But even within our footprint, plus the sphere of our listeners who go to live further out of our footprint but still listen, there are several different climates here.
Yes.
So I remember when I lived in the DC area, everybody was into having ficus plants inside their house. And every weekend garden show was, oh, my ficus tree is dropping its leaves, what do I do? Then we moved to Florida for a few years, and it's, how do I stop this ficus tree from growing?
Correct.
Right. I have to trim it every 2 weeks. Aren't we similar in some ways out here?
Absolutely. Usually if you're higher up in the mountains in elevation, you have a later growing season. So people down in Bernalillo might be able to put their vegetable gardens in starting mid-May. You might have to wait till the end of May until you're past the danger of the last frost.
I'd always heard Mother's Day was the trigger.
Yeah, that's fine. That's being very safe. But if you want to get an advance on your growing, because it's really hot now, so you might want to get it in a little earlier. Right now things are really struggling because it's so hot and dry. You can put things in earlier if you have a little protection. But
altitude? I mean, what
altitude, elevation?
Right. They're, 5,000 Corrales?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think Bernalillo is 5,400. They might be a little lower. They're probably the same because the river bed runs through it.
Now, I know the driveway, or the road that goes to my driveway, is at 5,800. You say square feet, it's just feet. That's potentially 800 feet higher than Albuquerque, where in some instances that's where I may be buying my trees or my plants, or you go to the grower's market and buy a tomato plant, and do I need to grow them from babies in the 5,800 foot altitude?
I recommend going to nurseries that specialize in native plants because they're acclimated to this area, and usually the staff are very knowledgeable about what things will do well at certain elevations and certain soil types. So going to a box store and buying things, usually they're grown in North Carolina, California, so it's completely different climate, rainfall. So those things, they may do well here or they may not. So you, instead of beating your head against the wall, I suggest going to a good local native plant nursery and finding out what does well here.
And anybody we want to plug?
There's the Santa Ana Garden Center off 550.
I've had many wonderful reviews
They are
from there.
absolutely fabulous. They grow their own things on the Pueblo. They have a nursery. Also, Plants of the Southwest are very good. They grow their own. They are very knowledgeable. And I'm sure there's some smaller Alameda Greenhouse, Osuna Nursery. They all have a portion that's dedicated to local natives.
As part of the Extension Service, or just the county in general, do you have any local seed banks where us do-it-ourselves gardeners can go and get lima beans or whatever?
We do, actually. One of the Master Gardener projects...
You look surprised that I asked that question.
Yeah, I am. That's great. One of the Master Gardener projects is a seed library at the Esterbone Library in Rio Rancho. So it's free to go in, take what you want. You just sign a membership form, which is basically a one sheet, with your name and address, some contact info, and you write down what packets you take. So right now it's mostly vegetables, but we do have some flower seeds in there. And the idea is that after the season ends, that you bring back some seeds to be put back into the library.
Right.
But it's completely free.
And what would be like the top 3 edibles that I would want to grow in Placitas based on soil conditions?
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people grow, tomatoes, chilies, squash.
Okay.
Those are always big ones. Let's see.
So I pick up an acorn squash. I can get that at the seed bank, or would I do something more native?
No, they all have all kinds of seeds, and we just got a bunch of donations from some big organic seed companies.
Okay.
So there's a wide variety. So some things might do a little better here. You can go to our website at acesnmsu.edu.
ASUS?
ACES, ACES,
ACES.
Agriculture, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences. So
I guess that's because
have,
I'm a Gamblers Anonymous. I
we
can't
have
ACES.
a lot of publications, and there's one on vegetable varieties that show which ones will do best, and we're in the central region, so
Okay.
those that will do best for us.
And without me stepping over what you were saying, could you repeat the website again, please?
Sure, it's aces.nmsu.edu, and publications, so PUBS.
Do you know enough about the seeds? This could be way too specific a question, but often they'll say, 4 to 8 inch fruit.
Right, okay.
So I get a butternut squash.
Mm-hmm.
4 to 8 inch fruit is what the spec is. And I get a 12 inch. Do I need to save that squash and bring it back, or at least the seeds, to you and go, this was the mother of all squashes?
That would be great. We are always looking for people to donate to the seed library. So if you don't want to go to the actual seed library, but you want to share your seeds, you can bring it to the extension office.
Is there a review? Like, you go, okay, Matthew, that squash was abnormally large. You're doing something right, or we just got a little genetic mutation.
Mm-hmm.
But, it tasted awful. It was mealy and tough. So,
Well, when you're seed saving, you want to save them from, plants that the fruit tastes good. So what
Right.
you do is you taste some of the fruit first, and then if it's a keeper, then you can tag it somehow and keep certain fruit aside for seed saving especially.
but some are functional, like, aren't there those birdhouse gourds?
Yes.
We don't
right.
care what they taste like,
Right.
do we?
No.
So
no.
size is it.
Right. Yep.
So does the county, or you personally as an agriculture agent, endorse local gardeners to do our own island of Dr. Moreau, where, I'm going to breed the smallest cantaloupe. It's going to be the size of, an avocado. No, all organic, just selective pollination.
Right.
Is that
You
a
can
crime
do
against
that.
humanity and God? Or?
No. I don't think that's how we get all these heirloom seeds. Is family generation after generation did exactly that. They selected the characteristics that they liked in their family. Maybe it was a certain taste or a certain color, and maybe not consciously, but they would select seeds from those plants that the family preferred. And then after generation, you have basically, selected and bred those vegetables for your own taste. So those
Right.
heirlooms that we're all enjoying now are that act of families selecting seed season after season. So the same thing.
But aren't there, I think it was maybe with bees, I had heard some presentation, but if you want a particular flavor of
Right.
honey, you've got to net your area so that the other bees don't go out on Saturday night looking
Right.
for something strange.
Right.
Is that an issue is cross-pollination of the wrong kind an issue here?
Absolutely. Because
What do we do?
well, if you think about it, let's see. So chilies, gourds, melons, they're all in the same family. Sweet peppers and hot peppers can easily cross-pollinate. So if you have your jalapenos and your habaneros right next to your sweet red pepper, they can cross-pollinate And then the next year, if you save seed, you will get something in between that's not sweet or hot. So
Right.
if you're really serious, you need to keep them at a distance. You need to actually, once the flowers start coming on the plant, cover it to keep them from cross-pollinating.
And this is the type of thing that we would learn at the Master Gardeners program.
Yes, absolutely.
One year I was planting tomatoes, that everyone knows vine-ripe tomatoes, and I also like to grow my own habaneros. Because for some reason, we're a green chili state, no habanero sauce. But they told me not to plant it in the same bed as the tomatoes, because I would get very hot tomatoes.
Yes.
Is that true?
That's true, yes.
God.
Yes.
My cousin was right. I'll have to call them.
You need to be. They easily cross-pollinate. So at the university, when they're actually doing variety trials, once the peppers start blooming, they actually pick them off and then cover them. That way, that ensures that no pollen from outside that plant has gotten into the plant and cross-pollinated it. So you can be very serious about this, or you can just say, whatever.
Let nature take its own course.
Let nature take its course, correct.
All right. And this is Conversations with Matthew Bronson on KUPR 99.9 FM here in the high desert of Placitas, New Mexico. And we're having a conversation today with Lynda Garvin, agricultural agent at the Sandoval Extension Service. So we shall continue. Water everywhere, but not a drop to garden. That's what they tell us, that there's no water in New Mexico, but we're a huge agricultural state. It's like every time I go to Seattle, they go, oh, it's rainy there, it's drizzly. I've been there like 11 times. It's always 70 and sunny. So is this something that we just make up because we're so water paranoid, or do we not have water in Placitas?
Well, I just heard that there was a house fire, was it yesterday? So now, Placitas West, Trails West, they don't have water. It pumped out all the water from the well. So it's very limited resource. It's the most limiting resource in our state, and we need to be careful about how we use it. And we need to protect it. We also need to save it. So,
well, I'm just a regular guy in my house of whatever size, but I've got enough for a couple of 4x4 raised ground beds.
Right.
Am I being socially irresponsible by growing tomatoes and cucumbers?
No, I don't think so. I think we have a right to grow our own food. So I think that's, food sovereignty. I think we have a right to do that.
But am I taking somebody else's drinking water?
We're not
that bad.
Yeah, we're not that bad. No, we're not rationing water. But there are things you can do to make the most of the water that you do put on your plants. So,
well, let's start with that. How do we make the most of it?
Okay, first, it's how you water. So, number one, water early in the morning before it gets hot and windy. That way.
Early to some people is 10 a.m. It's 4 a.m. to others. So
well,
what do you call it?
Early before, I would say before 10.
Okay.
Okay, so 10's okay. You also probably want to, if you're serious about conserving water, either use a drip irrigation system, which are fairly simple to put together, and you can learn about that at the Extension Service, or you can use a soaker hose in your bed, and then mulch your beds with straw or some kind of organic matter, like you can use. Not many people in Placitas have grass clippings, but in Corrales we have a lot of pastures, so they can do that.
Pine needles?
Pine needles, yes, absolutely. Pine bark, any kind of mulch that you can get at the landfill for a reasonable price.
But you had said that I could learn how to assemble my Tinker Toy system at the Extension office. Is that listed on the website, like the second Tuesday of every month, or it's just a narrative?
We have actually classes throughout the year, at least one a month. So they're listed on our website. So we have one a month during, like in winter season, January through April, we've had 2 or 3 a month on those basic gardening concepts about, micro drip irrigation systems, water conservation, integrated pest management. So those are things we teach throughout the year.
Where is the classroom located?
It's in the Extension office, which is at 711 South Camino del Pueblo in Bernalillo, and it's in the old courthouse in the back.
Okay.
So it's very easy to find.
I like to call it Main Street because I get confused.
Street. Okay, Main Street, yes, correct.
I don't think the mayor is so happy about that. All right, well,
So mulching actually, it keeps the water from evaporating as quickly. So it keeps the soil temperature cooler in the summer. So when it's 100 degrees out, it can easily get 120, 100 above that soil on the soil surface.
and keep the mulch moist, or just,
Well, okay, you put your plants in, put the mulch around it. So if you have drip or a soaker hose underneath your mulch,
Okay.
then it's watering the soil directly and not the mulch. So that's more of a barrier to keep the sun from baking your plants, pretty much.
well, baking the roots, but what about the green leaves? I've seen
Yes.
some of them look very sad.
Absolutely. Right now, shade cloth is really important, or you can get row cover, which is a spun polyester. It's very fine. You can buy it in rolls at box stores and garden centers. So you can fabricate a shade cover. You know, you can use PVC piping. You can use wooden stakes, something to cover them, because right now everything is being stressed by the hot temperatures and the intense sun.
So if anyone has any kind of small garden like that, they should incorporate into their process shade covering for this time of year.
Exactly. And I have a master gardener who has a beautiful garden, but it's all enclosed, and she has permanent shade cloth. So she starts with that. So her garden is prolific. She has such a bounteous crop every year.
Is this too technical to say we want to take out 8% of the light or 12% of the light?
There are different degrees. I think our vegetable specialist recommends like what did she say? It's like a 60% coverage, but if you have questions about it, call me at my office, because I need to confirm that. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. And you're reachable through the website also?
Right, or you can call our office, 867-2582. Any questions you have, we do home visits if you have questions about your landscape or a tree issue. Usually it's hard to answer questions about trees looking at a leaf.
Right.
So you need to see it inside.
Is part of the master garden and the extension service where you will help someone plant a garden?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm starting with dirt, and I want to put this in the right way.
Right,
You're
yes.
Probably better to get in on the ground floor. And,
Right, yes, we can
well,
do
that's
that.
super.
I mean, rocks have their place, but I don't think should be, 100% of your yard should be rocks. Plus, rocks heat up.
Right.
So that can be an issue for trees, and also allowing your trees to breathe. The roots need to breathe as well as we do, so it can cause compaction and actually the heating element. And I think a little greenery is nice. I mean, you can have some places where rocks make a nice accent, but you can also do pavers for,
Right.
stepping stones, and have oasis zones where maybe you plant some flowering plants and pollinator plants that might require a little more water, but have it close to your home where you can easily water it and take special care, and then use drought-tolerant plants in the rest of your landscape.
Yeah, because if we're replacing mulch with stone, the stone is going to dissipate that heat the rest of the night.
Exactly.
So,
right.
okay, I'm going to turn
Which
this
might
back.
be an advantage if you have fruit trees, but, in the cooler temperatures.
I'll
But
have to take the class.
there you go.
Dirt, soil, mulch, compost,
Mhm.
it's all the same to me, and I know it's not to you.
Okay.
I've got this, where I'm going to plant my vegetable garden, is like ground up rock.
Right.
I don't know how far down I'd have to go to actually see something that I'd call dirt, and then it'd probably be icky dirt.
Right.
So what's a man to do?
Well, I think for most people here in Sandoval County, Placitas area, is to just go with raised beds and bring in your own soil, because we're on rock.
Yes.
So it's hard to find any good soil to plant in the first place. So you avoid a multitude of sins and issues by building raised beds and bringing in your own soil, and using compost to replenish that soil every year.
So you're talking about like 2x12s and making them into boxes?
Yep.
Two planks high?
Well, but you can just do one. I mean, that's fine. You want it at least 12 inches for the root systems of your vegetables.
And do
so
you want
that's
to bury
two.
any part of that plank below the ground to dissuade cute little bunnies? Or,
You can put hardware cloth underneath.
okay.
Lay that down first, and then put it up on the inside of the planks.
Like you're making
so like a lip to keep them from coming
Like
through.
make a shower bed or...
Exactly.
You've never done that?
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and 2 feet by 2 feet, 3 feet by 3 feet?
Well, the rule of thumb is you only want it as wide as your arm can reach. So that would
halfway.
be, yes, halfway.
Okay.
Because you need to weed. So if your bed is too wide, you're going to have to step in
You
the
used
bed.
the W word.
Yeah, to weed.
Yeah, that's...
So 3 feet is usually ample for most people, right?
Now, at one point in my life, in a different geography, which is not relevant to the question, which is why I made sure to throw that in, but I wanted to make the raised beds. Go down to any of those stores.
Right.
And I was told by a family member, nay, nay, nay. All that wood has cooties in it, from the walmanizing and pressure treating, and that's going to get into my soil. So I have to go spend 100 times more and get cedar for my raised beds.
Just get untreated wood. I mean, there's a whole range of pine,
There
different
is?
prices. Absolutely, yeah.
Right, untreated pine.
Or any kind of wood that's untreated. So that's can.
And there is more than a choice of one at these stores.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
And how do they hold up over the years up here? I mean, we're replacing them every couple of years?
Perhaps, but you can prime them with a latex paint before you put your beds in. I mean, they'll last for a long time.
And that fits into your organic sensibilities, the primer.
Well, there hasn't been any study showing that latex paint is causing any kind of toxicity to your garden, so.
Okay.
But it's dry here, so usually it takes a long time for boards to rot out, unless you're overwatering, perhaps.
That's good to know. Okay. Ed McMahon has given me an envelope. So the answer is straw bale.
Yes.
Is that one of the tricks of the trade? Straw bale gardening?
I'm just being introduced to straw bale gardening. One of our master gardeners, Catherine Richards, did actually a class here at the library
Yes.
and at the extension service. So, I mean, that's a great thing if you have limited space or you, want the convenience of doing a straw bale, which is, kind of all-in-one package.
Right, but anecdotally I've heard varying results, because you have to prime it. You got to put water
You
in
have
it.
to
If you don't do it
prime it,
right,
right.
you can end up with rotten straw.
True.
All right, well, so I want to have the most prolific raised bed garden or small greenhouse. How do I achieve this, sweet, sweet soil that we're going for? The good stuff.
You would want to buy get a mix of topsoil, which has been sterilized in the sense that there's not going to be any diseases in there or insect eggs.
Or weeds.
Or weed seeds, correct. And then get compost, treated compost, and you can go to the Sandoval landfill. They have a treated composting facility, and for $12 or $14 you can get a whole truckload of compost.
Load yourself.
They'll load it for you.
With like a back loader or something?
Yes, exactly.
And I've tried to navigate that site a few times and not really understanding, I guess, as detailed the definitions of types of trucks as I should. There's a limit. I can only come between certain hours if my truck is over a certain size.
Well, the
and then if
best
it's
thing-
blue,
You need to call because once they're up and running, they run out very quickly.
Really? And they have a season.
Well, they do it all year round.
Okay.
But a lot of people early spring, they're like, okay, composting and I'm getting my garden ready. So a lot of people go out and get it then. So it's
Early spring, I would think, would be a good time. I don't know why I say I think, because I have nothing to base this opinion on. But it's been cold. The ground is frozen. So any little buggers in there may have died off because
they've
are
already been
freeze.
killed because it's heat treated.
Oh,
So
well,
yeah.
kill
So
me once,
it's good
let
stuff.
me.
It might be a little coarse, so a lot of people sift it. They may take
Like chicken wire.
Yeah, exactly. Put it over a wheelbarrow and sift it so you get finer stuff.
They do that as they're loading, or
No,
as
they
they're
do
unloading?
it when they get home. So they sift it, and the finer stuff they actually mix into their beds, the planting soil, and then the coarser stuff you can put on top as the mulch.
And is this just going to get better every year, like a fine wine?
You need to add compost 1 to 3 inches every year to your garden beds because your plants are using it, it's breaking down, and so you need to replenish that.
And Is there a maximum yield I can expect from a 3x3, or does that all depend on
It depends.
what I'm growing?
Yeah, what you're growing, your planting space. There's a certain, like square foot gardening or biointensive gardening where they don't use lines. They actually maybe use a 5-point seeding or a more clustered seeding where they're closer together, they're denser.
You may be learning something today. A quincux looks like the 5 side of a die. And I learned a long time ago that's kind of the optimum for planting trees.
Okay.
So is that the 5-point?
Yeah, same.
Now we have a word for it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
you'll be
I
great
learned something. Thank you.
Amen. So it's going to keep getting better and better. If I'm a family of 2 adults and a child of some age, that you're not ready to throw them out. You're still going to feed them or her.
Right.
How many square feet of these 2x2s do I need to possibly be self-sustaining, barring animal meat?
I can't give you, I know some resources that will give you estimates on how you can do that. The square foot gardening can do that. There's a book called Grow More Vegetables by John Jevons, and he's like the guru for vegetable growing, biointensive vegetable growing. So there's a calculation on how many people and how much you need to grow in order to be self-sufficient. But that's, just for veggies, not grain crops and other things.
I just kind of in my mind planning, am I going to have 3 2x2 beds, or am I going to have 300?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those estimates depends on how much you eat. If you're real veggie eaters, then you might need a little more than a family that's not quite.
The veggies are great as long as there's the steak with it.
So there are calculations, and if you call me, and I can help you find that calculation to figure out how much you need to grow.
Did we cover all of the water distribution methods? It's basically drip or mist.
Drip, they're soaker hoses, but they tend to clog here. So every year you might be replacing it. It's the mesh on the outside that allows it to seep out. The calcium and the salts in the water can clog those up, even after one season. So that's
maintenance, like sprinklers and other parts.
Exactly, right.
So the piping for the distribution system is 2 inches underground or 3 inches underground?
You can leave it on top of the ground if you mulch.
If you mulch, okay.
Yeah, underground is troublesome because if you get an issue, then you don't know quite where it is and you have to dig it
Well,
up.
the head's going to pop out near the plant. Or does the head go underground?
No, it goes next to the plant.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
And the fact that I suspect all of these wells around here are really coming out of the same aquifer.
Yes.
So we're all using the same kind of water. Do you know anything about our water from a gardening perspective?
Well, I know in general, just because we are in an arid climate, that salt tends to build up.
Okay.
Especially with the high evaporation rates that we have. So that's something you need to flush your system every year.
Well, the natural groundwater is salty. It's also hard. The modern method of reducing hardness is to use a water softener, which is salt.
Right.
So do we now need a super salt filter?
Well, if you're using are you using well water or using your water from the house?
It's not reclaimed.
Okay. No, treated in that it's coming out of a tap on the side of your house that's going through your water filter, as opposed to a well.
Well, I haven't built the house yet, and so you could probably tell me the best way to do that.
Well, soft water is hard on plants in that there's a high salt concentration.
Okay.
So you're kind of adding to the problem of the natural salinity that occurs in our soils and in our water. So if you have wells, then it's
better to use the unprocessed straight from the cow.
Yes.
All right.
If you have that option. If you don't, then you just do you can do. Plus, drinking water has chlorine in it, which plants don't like. So, if you have a big garden, that might build up over time. That might be an issue.
Okay. And I'm going to guess that the well waters from the Placitas aquifer doesn't have all those mineral buildups that like the Rio Rancho water has. A lot of the iron.
I'm not sure about the quality or what's going on.
Even though we're from the same aquifer, should each well have its own water tested for amoebas or arsenic?
You should test. Well, arsenic's a big problem in Placitas, so
Right.
just for general safety, human health and animal health, I would recommend you get your water tested.
Does the county offer a test?
The environmental health department will do water testing for you.
And is it like good, bad, or does it break it down into?
I think it breaks it down into if there's any toxins in the water. Parts per million, they're looking for arsenic and other things. And sometimes they'll offer like they'll have a day where they're doing free water sampling. I
Right.
think there might be a minimal fee any other time of the year.
Sure. Okay. Well, how'd we do? Are we armed and dangerous?
Knowing just enough to
Be dangerous.
to be dangerous, yes.
That's how
I
I
think
live my
so.
life, Lynda.
So if you have any questions, always you can call us, and that's what we're there for.
Okay. Let's do the number and the website again.
Okay, the number is 505-867-2582, and the website is www.sandovalmastergardeners.org.
Perfect. I really appreciate you coming out today. I hope you enjoyed it at least half as much as I did.
I had a great time. Thank you.
And perhaps we will carry on this conversation and find another opportunity, maybe during different seasons, as to what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
Go out there with the pitchfork, or there's a bad batch of Arizona straw coming in, so make sure you check where it's coming from. So for Conversations with Matthew Bronson on KUPR 99.9 FM, and of course, always at abqlive.tv, this is Matthew Bronson. Thank you, Lynda.
Thank you.